Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Go ahead and get started. So I should probably let everybody know that I am not the original speaker, which is going to be an important caveat as we move forward. So I'll do my best. Hopefully it's a little entertaining. Apologize if it's not. So we're going to talk a little bit about who we are. We're going to talk a little bit about the carrier landscape, how we take control of it, and the complexities around the environment. Before we get started, though, there's a 30,000-pound elephant in the room that we need to get out of the way. About 6-7 weeks ago, our board announced that we were divesting one of our business units, which is the global e-commerce business that's been in the news a little bit recently. What has not gone away is the 105-year-old company that underpinned all of that. We've been putting solutions into the market for many, many years now to take complexity initially out of mailing with the postage meter, and then eventually we tried on the fulfillment side, and it just didn't really pan out. So we shut that business down about 6 weeks ago. We've been fielding some questions about it the last couple of hours, and if you have any questions you want to talk about it, come find us later on. But now that that's out of the way, so how do we enable commerce? And initially with our e-commerce offering, we were doing that by touching boxes. And we've since shifted to really focusing on how to enable that from a technology standpoint. It's no surprise, parcel volumes have been exploding over the last few years, certainly the pandemic. It really just shows that the problem is not going away, it's exacerbated, if anything. The traditional big three, when you think about the parcel ecosystem, the big three used to be the focus for everybody: UPS, FedEx, and the Postal Service. But in the last few years, players like Amazon and a lot of the regional carriers have really started to fracture the market and make your jobs a lot more difficult. And you can see carrier volumes are exploding. Amazon Logistics is really kind of the one that's shocking everybody. And then the regional players just make things even that much more complex and hard to manage. Just a few more snapshots on parcel revenue. But how do we get to, what are we going to do about this? And with all of that choice that now exists in the market that wasn't there before, you need solutions to be able to help your organization pivot from A to B. And that's really the multi-carrier dilemma. So how do you choose a carrier? Whether that's rates, surcharges, transit times, time to delivery, there's a lot of different data points and things that are important to each service choice that you make. The challenge is really, how do you do all of this and do it in a quick way? And a lot of retailers that we polled over the last year are showing that the technology integrations, losing those discounts that are important to the business models, they really reside across the market. Whether you're large or small, it doesn't matter. Those problems are not unique to you. So in 2024, we're taking a look at this fractured landscape that used to just be the Postal Service and dominated by a couple, and now the choices are exponential. Taking control of that can be really difficult. Hundreds of different services are out there. There's a lot of information that can come at you. Dealing with rates, it can be very complex. Delivery performance, there's a lot of things that create this complexity. And this multi-carrier technology from Pitney Bowes helps cost optimization. It helps ensure that you're tracking on-time delivery performance, increased flexibility when there's disruptions in the market or in the carrier network. How do you pivot? How do you make choices that are smart? And then compliance becomes a real challenge. When you're dealing with all those different organizations, managing that information in the background can be very difficult. Orchestrating that becomes a real challenge. And our tools help break this down by enabling you to design and configure business rules based on the different nuances of what you're shipping. Can be scaled across your organization, whether you're a small or medium business or you're a massive enterprise with global footprint. Our solution can help meet those different challenges and different needs. Executing becomes a real critical component in this environment. And this tool really gives you that visibility across that landscape. So you're in real time, you're able to choose different carriers, different services, based on the needs of your customer, based on the needs of your organization and your priorities. The other thing that it does is give you real-time visibility across those different packages and enable you to provide that information to your stakeholders. Compliance is a very, very difficult challenge in this environment. Being able to navigate the different components, whether it's shipping, whether it's platform security, user security, data privacy, and other things are very important these days. The optimization piece, how do you do this better? So the analytics that underrides this gives you all of that data, it gives you access and visibility. You can make informed decisions. You can make So how does Pitney Bowes enable you? And across this landscape, there's lots of different choices to be made. And what we try to do is take the complexity out of those decisions. Our Pitney Bowes 360 platform can scale, again, it can scale across the landscape, whether you're an office, whether you're a retailer or warehouser, or if you're on the e-commerce side. That's all I got.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Sean?
All right.
I got some. Do you want to?
Sure.
I'm sure they're just shy and they'll come up with a question in a minute. Okay. So how do you guys prioritize which integrations to add to the system? You know, you talked about near infinite regional options. How are you guys making that decision, and sort of how do you put the shipper at the forefront of that?
That's a nice question. So it really just depends on the needs of our customers. You know, we meet with our clients and review the requirements. You know, those decisions are really just based on our available bandwidth and how critical that need is for you.
How do you guys keep up with like the peak surcharges when you talk about the rate shopping? Because the carriers are getting creative and it's a very fluid situation.
Yep, great question. So we work through a partnership with each carrier. So we have a carrier partnerships team that manages those relationships. And we try to make sure that we have advanced visibility to those rate changes. We actually just executed one this past weekend for the peak surcharge.
Speaking of visibility, you talked about that. Is it real-time exception management? So can I see my shipments that are stuck in transit, or is it more like a ready-made QBR scorecard?
Right now, it's more on that ready-made QBR scorecard. Very soon, we will have a predictive analytics option within our platform that will give you that real-time visibility and exception handling.
Yeah, managed by exception is the dream. So I thought that was interesting about like being able to customize the rules. What are some of the trends that you're seeing with how shippers are engaging with that functionality?
Yeah, so one of the most prevalent examples that we use that for is if somebody in your organization is shipping something overnight, we take a look at at the characteristics of that shipment, and perhaps if it's going from zone 1 to zone 2 and it's over the weekend, it's not going to fly anyway. It can go on the ground. So those are some of that type of visibility is what we try to focus on.
That's really kind of an advanced way to do it, because usually it's like, oh, if the ground transit is 2 days or 1 day, then we'll do it that way. But if you're considering the weekends as well, that's kind of that's really neat. I guess the other question I would have is, what does it look like to get started with Pitney Bowes? Like, how long is an implement? I mean, peak is right around the corner. So just wondering, what's kind of that timeline?
Yeah, great question. And it really depends on the size and complexity of the requirements that each client has. If you have simple requirements, you can be up and ready to go within a matter of hours. And the fact that the tool is SaaS-based and it can be scaled from a simple implementation all the way up to a very complex one, everybody's using the same platform. So it's not as if we have to customize it. A lot of that customization comes in from you as the client or the power user defining those business roles, defining what those user roles within the platform have access to, what they can manipulate and change.
All right. Anything that I didn't ask you that you wanted to talk about?
No, appreciate everybody's time and attention.
All right. And he'll be at the booth for the questions you didn't want to ask in front of everybody. Thank you, guys.